If you've ever been curious about Reiki or using the law of attraction to create a business or relationship of your dreams, you need to listen to this week's episode of That Was the Moment. This week, I'm talking to my amazing Reiki master, Gwen, and she shares the moment she decided to stop playing small and take a leap of faith and start that business she'd been dreaming of. Gwen was determined not to live a life of regret, and she hasn't looked back. I'm your host, Duschanca, and you're listening to That Was the Moment I Chose Courage Over a Life of Regret. My guest today is Gwen Allison. Through the challenges of divorce, loss, and redundancy, Gwen found her purpose becoming an advanced life coach and Reiki practitioner while raising her daughter and building a holistic business, My Spiritual Butterfly. Passionate about healing, she now teaches Reiki and founded the CNHC-approved Advanced Reiki Professional Practitioner Diploma, which allows Reiki to be practiced in medical settings. Thank you so much for being here, Gwen, and I'm just so happy to see a familiar face. I have been so fortunate to have Gwen as one of my Reiki teachers back in London, so it's so nice to connect to a familiar face. Makes me feel at home.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. It's lovely to see you as well. It's been a long time.
It has been very long.
Thank you for inviting me. And you look fabulous.
So do you.
It's doing you well, being in the sun and everything else. Yeah.
Well, I still think that you age backwards, but that's another story. You'll share those secrets with us in another podcast.
Maybe.
So let's get started. Tell us about what life was like before your moment.
Yeah, before my moment, I guess it goes back to my spiritual journey initially. I've worked in corporate for many years before my moment, probably like 20 years before my moment, if not more. So in IT as well, in management, so very kind of a little bit left-brained. In terms of the spiritual journey that maybe led up to the moment, I was going through a divorce. This is kind of like now 2004, 5, 6, around that sort of time. And discovering things like the law of attraction, the secret, Deepak chakra, things like that, that really kind of answered a lot of questions for me. I was brought up a Catholic, which is great. I honor that. It gave me my initial connection to the divine. So that was really lovely. But I had a lot of questions around who am I? Questions we typically ask, I think. Why am I here? What's my purpose? Is my life really to continually go to work, do the 9 to 5 every day, retire, then die? Was that my destiny? And when I discovered things like the law of attraction, as I said, I was going through a divorce at the time. If people don't know about the law of attraction, it's about the fact that our thoughts and our words and our beliefs can create our reality. And that was just wonderful for me to hear that, because it meant that finally I didn't have to just float along with life, and wherever it took me, I had to go there and cope with whatever I saw. With the law of attraction, you can start to create your reality. And so going through the divorce, it allowed me to do two things. One, to create my life after the divorce, visually in my mind and scripting and things like that gave me some hope. It was something that I'd instigated, because through this exploration of our mindset, I guess myself and my husband at the time, I was changing and he was staying the same, to put it sort of succinctly. So I was kind of doing this work. It allowed me to plan my future a little bit, but more importantly, it made me realize the pain my decision had caused, and allow me to take accountability for that as well. And so when I asked for the divorce, he was really not happy about it, to say the least. He was really angry about it. And it just made everything worse between us. But being able to see it through his lens and understand that that was his way of just dealing with it. The anger was something he didn't want. It was just a reflection of the pain he was feeling. That allowed me to navigate that divorce differently. It allowed me to see his perspective, and then we were able to become friends, basically, and do the rest of it amicably. My daughter at the time was 8 years old, so it wasn't great for her initially. We were at loggerheads until that moment. So it was good to be able to do that differently. And then it was around about that same time that I trained as a life coach to show other women how they could navigate through a divorce in a more powerful way, without so much of the pain and the suffering and the looking back, but keeping them kind of looking forward. and building their new life, focusing on that. So as I said, I was a life coach doing that on the side. I was still working in corporate. And 7 years later, I went for another breakup, which is I think the pattern of my life in terms of the big changes. Relationships is the theme. And this person that I was with, I was just with him for a year and a half. It was initially very refreshing that he would look after everything. He would take care of where we went on dates. He would, control everything. And initially, me being more in my masculine, because I was working in IT, managing, I was a single mom. It was really refreshing to kind of have someone come in and be like, right, we're going to go here, we're going to do this. And I felt all like nice and feminine and taken care of. But then it got a little bit too controlling and into too many other areas of my life. And so I decided then to call it a day. But it wasn't an easy decision. It was still difficult because I still had feelings for him. I wanted to kind of move for it really quickly. I didn't have time to be heartbroken. I had to still go to work. I had to look after my daughter, brave face on for everything. So I wanted to really get over that fast. Whereas typically if I had a breakup, maybe a year, it might take me to get over it. And I didn't want that again. But also I wanted to add something that added a bit more depth to my life coaching that I was doing on the side. And although I've always worked for other people in corporate and things, I always had this niggling thing that I wanted to do my own thing and have my own business and be my own boss. I tried all sorts of things back in the day, which were around CV writing for people, all these different little businesses that I tried to set up. This exploration of trying to find a modality or a healing modality that will help me move through this breakup led me to Reiki. And I decided that I would actually learn it straight off the bat because I did actually have a Reiki treatment session when I was going through my divorce in like 2004, 5, 6, whenever that was. But I didn't really feel very much because again, as I said, I was very kind of left-brained, I think.
Overthinking
overthinking it, didn't really know what she was doing either. And I'd never really explored any kind of energy modality before. The law of attraction felt still left brain to me, if that makes sense. And I was never really good at meditating back then. I had my prayer, which I had from like the coaching. So that would obviously help me, but I hadn't really explored any sort of energy work at all. And so when I tried it back in the day in 2006, I was lying there. She was placing her hands on or above me. I could roughly sense where she was, but I didn't really know what she was doing, why she was doing it. And then when she charged me £40, I thought I'd been conned. So, I was like, I'll call the police. I've been conned here. Flip forward to I think it was 2015 after this second breakup. And then I found Reiki again. And after initially kind of pushing it to one side, I decided to actually learn how to do it. And I loved it, basically. I did Reiki 1. I could feel a little bit in my hands. I could see some white light. I could feel this energy of love. I didn't initially think it was for me because the other people in the class were just like seeing these amazing things and experiencing these amazing things. Like I said, I was still a little bit left-brained in all of it. And I nearly gave up. I nearly kind of said on day 1 of the course, this isn't for me, but persevered with it. And after my Reiki 1, I started practicing self-Reiki and I could start to feel energy a little bit more in my back and in my body because it really does open up your third eye a little bit when you do Reiki. It kind of does that naturally. I did my Reiki 2 with the intention of adding Reiki to my life coaching, starting off as a Reiki practitioner. But I just loved how it was changing my life. I was becoming calmer. Things that used to trigger me weren't triggering me anymore. With Reiki 2, you learn how to do sort of remote healing. And so I was able to help my daughter who didn't want in-person Reiki, but she was fine with remote healing. I could send Reiki to my mum who was in St. Lucia. She's passed now, but she lived in St. Lucia and every time that something wasn't right with her, I was able to sort of send some healing. And then I get the phone call saying, oh, she's much better now. Just when I was just about to fly over, I had to unpack the suitcase. It was fine. So it was great to be able to see the change in me and in my life and everything else and adding it to the life coaching and being able to offer it to my clients and go a bit deeper in terms of not just the vanilla coaching, but go to levels that you can't sometimes connect with our logical conscious mind, and have these little epiphanies and downloads. And so it was a really lovely thing to do. So that really, in terms of before Reiki, that's kind of where I was. In 2018, I started teaching Reiki, and I was teaching one weekend a month. Bearing in mind, I was still working full time in IT. So 5 days I was working, then 2 days I was teaching, but I could only teach once a month because otherwise I'd be working 7 days a week all the time, which just isn't going to be possible. But I could feel this kind of pull kind of before the actual moment, and I was like too scared. I was on a big salary, I had a mortgage, I was a single mom, you're getting your sick pay, you're getting your holiday pay, all these things. So the thought of me kind of ending that and going full time was just scary, basically, like it is for most people. What if I end up losing the house and living under a bridge and not being able to support myself?
All those worst case scenarios.
Yeah, they all come up. So that's kind of where I was before that sort of time.
So I just wanted to go back. Something that has been quite a common theme here is on the podcast is, a lot of people finding that they were on the hamster wheel of life. And when they were on that hamster wheel of life, they didn't feel like they were in any kind of control of their lives. You go through the motions. You get up, you go to work, you come home, you do this. And then it was interesting how you talked about finding the law of attraction gave you a sense of control that, actually, I can get off this hamster wheel and I can make my own life. And that's been a really common theme, actually. I think it happens to us all at different points in our lives and after different circumstances. But huge changes like a breakup or a loss of a job or a loved one, that's been the theme, really, that kind of instigates that need to change or the need for something different. And I think the questioning of, is this all my life is going to be, this hamster wheel? From what I've seen, it happens to women from the age of like 30 to 40 in that period where they've just kind of like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And the world around them looks at them thinking, are you mad? You're going to leave this relationship, you're going to leave this job. But I guess when the calling is there, it's there's only so long you can push it away for.
That initial epiphany, I was 40 at the time of my divorce. I'm 56 now.
I know. See, you are aging backwards. I don't know what you're doing, but I want it. But definitely when I was going for my divorce, that was a sort of reflection. It was like, this is such a big decision, but I can't not act. And I deliberated for about a year before I decided that this wasn't working for me. And then definitely in my job, it just chips away at you, doesn't it? As you say, because you're getting up every day, you're dreading Monday, you're living for the weekend. Sunday, you get depressed. Sunday night, you kind of go down and get depressed. You've only got so many days holiday. When you are on holiday, initially it's great. And as it gets towards the end, you start getting down again. And so that was starting to get to me. But also when you do work for someone else and you've got a manager, and my manager at the time wasn't the best of managers. And then you realize how your future is kind of in their hands, whether you get a pay rise, whether you get a bonus or, and IT as well, being very male orientated at the time I was in it. I just realized how little control I had over what I earned, my potential. And the law of attraction did help me with that little bits because I was, quite a lot actually, because I was able to use that to manifest promotions without even having an interview, manifest a job change completely. Being in IT, is very much into like PowerPoints and things like that. And I remember doing this PowerPoint presentation about the new job I wanted to get, make a bit of music to it, some keywords. And I remember, I think at the time I'd been made redundant from a previous job before my last one. And, it was building up to it. Everyone knew it was happening and I was helping with the wind down. And I was made redundant in December, which everyone was like, oh my God, it's a really bad time. It's going to be hard to find work and da-da-da-da. The law of attraction says we make our own economy. We have our own energy around all of that. And so I was doing this PowerPoint. I remember it completely in my bedroom, doing this PowerPoint on my laptop. I'd worked permanently for years, never ever been a contractor in IT. It was really common to have contractors. And so I wanted to be a contractor. I wanted X amount a day. I wanted to work near London Bridge so I could just get on the train and
didn't have to get on the tube or the metro or whatever. All these things I put in my PowerPoint, and I took literally a couple of hours to do it, and I really enjoyed it. And then I was watching it back. And then as soon as I finished watching it, I got a phone call from an agency saying, we've got this job for you. It's contracting in London Bridge, paying X, like everything.
Wow.
So it does work really powerfully well. And it started to give me a bit of control. But I still had that kind of fear about taking the big leap and leaving that security, going full time in my business.
You're talking about being left brain, being a bit more masculine. From talking to other guests and friends and family, I found that when women are in their 30s and 40s, we kind of get this pull to become more feminine if we have been living in our masculine. It's like that inner feminine, it's sick of being hidden away. I don't know if that's an age thing, or maybe also we know that menopause is coming, or I don't know. But from your coaching, have you seen the same?
I have. I think, women do become more aware. Usually it's connected, and it was with me, it's connected with the types of relationships they're attracting or no relationship. And for me, it was kind of both. I realized I was attracting a typical certain type of guy, one who would either be a bit more feminine and kind of what I would call not so able to take control, take too much control, too dominant, where our masculines were matching, if that makes sense. Or I'd find that I wasn't attracting very much at all because I wasn't putting out a feminine energy. I was very much in my masculine, for sure. The masculine isn't bad. We all have both feminine and masculine in us, regardless of our gender. And it's fine if we're in the world of work to be, in our masculine, because we've got to lead, we've got to, sort things out. We've got to make things happen and all of that and be the doer. But we kind of then forget the feminine, and the feminine just gets lost. So it isn't that they have to be equal, but we just need to give some attention to the feminine as well.
Know when to bring each side out. There's a time for each. I was very much like you, just living in my masculine until I was 35, 36. I lived as if I was a middle-aged white man because of because of the industry I was. That's who I was, and I clearly am not that. But when I got to 35, and again it was after a breakup. After 35, I started going, oh, actually, I need to get back into find, and I think that, and that's also when I discovered Reiki and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, it makes sense because that side is the intuitive side, is the feminine side.
Yeah.
And so when we start connecting with that, we start to soften, we start to stop forcing and pushing, and we move more in the flow. And that's really where our power is. Whereas if you're in a relationship with someone who's in their masculine, you're also in your masculine. The masculine wants to kind of hold and nurture the feminine kind of wants to spiritually guide the masculine and has the vision. And so if you're both in your masculine, we end up either emasculating the person we're with, the man that we're with, or just constantly being at loggerheads all the time because both want to take control, both want to lead. No one actually wants to sit back a little bit. And that might be a little dance you do. It doesn't mean that you want to lead all the time, but there are times when you're like, you kind of go forward with this one. It is definitely something which affects what you attract. But I agree, when we get to that sort of age, we start reconnecting with our intuition, which is a big feminine trait. Part of the divine feminine energy is that intuition and that sort of more community and bringing people together, elevating our masculine through that spiritual awareness, if that makes sense, raising them up in that way.
Can you take us to your moment?
I was working full-time in IT. I was doing my coaching and Reiki on the side, teaching on the side. I can only do one weekend a month. But there was a bit of a pull for more that I could see there. And it wasn't like I was making great amounts of money because I wasn't putting the time into the business. I couldn't, but I could see the potential of it. But as I said, terrified. I was the main breadwinner, the only breadwinner. It was me and my daughter, mortgage to pay, all of that. And so the thought of going into the business full time just felt really just terrifying. But ummed and ahed about it and just thought, no, I'll just sit tight and just keep doing it on the side. I started the business in 2015, and it was when my mum passed away in 2019. And she was living in St. Lucia. She was 89. And I went out there and I had to do everything, organise the funeral. My brother came out as well, but people would rely on me to kind of do everything that needed to be done. And it was after we'd buried her, actually, and it was a really emotional thing for us because we were really close to our mums. And no matter how no matter how old you are or they are, it's always like a heart-wrenching thing, that grief. And I didn't really have that much time to grieve, but Reiki did help me a little bit to kind of move through that. I remember sitting on the veranda, me and my brother. My brother at the time wanted to retire early. He'd worked for the London Underground for like 30 years, going through the dark tunnel and all of that. And they pay really well and great pensions and stuff like that. But he was still scared about retiring early. He was going to spend more time in St. Lucia, where we were from. But to him, it still felt daunting because he was used to a certain amount of money and that regular income and everything else. And so we both kind of sat there on the veranda. His name's Vic, my brother. I could see that he really needed to do this and that it was a no-brainer and he would not lose out by doing this, because he was still going to be getting his pension and stuff like that. But I could understand that it was a scary thing. And I was talking to him about wanting to kind of give up my job. I'd been there 10 years and had all that security, but I was saying I was really ready to go and leave. I had some savings, some contingency money, but it was still scary. And we just literally both said that I don't want to be on my deathbed having any regrets, looking back going, why didn't I just do this? Why didn't I leave? What's the worst that can happen? I can get another job. Things that we feel are big, big risks and we think they're going to be the final decision we ever make in our life. We kind of then understand that actually that's not the case. There's other things we can do if it doesn't work out. Once I kind of had that epiphany, I thought, yeah, do you know what? Life's too short. If it doesn't work out, I know what I'm like. I'm hardworking, I'm conscientious, I've got a lot of skills. I will find another job. And even if it's an interim job, delivering pizzas until I, get the job that I want or whatever. But I would find another job, and knowing me, I'd probably go back to the drawing board and see how else I could work for myself, because I know that was always in me to kind of work for myself and do my own thing. But I really wanted to be there more for other people as well, to kind of share Reiki more, do more healing, see more clients. I literally went back to London, back to my job. I handed in my notice, only to find out that my boss of 10 years had resigned a week earlier. Yeah. Honestly, so that shows you, I think he was there to be my teacher.
If you had known that he had resigned, maybe you would have stayed another 5 years, because he's gone now. He was my problem. Yeah, wow. Talk about like timing.
Yeah. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. But yeah, I think if he hadn't have been there, I probably would still be working there now, because I quite like my job. It was just him that he was difficult with everybody, not just me. I probably would still be there. Which is a sad thing to see. But making that decision, even during the decision, got to work your notice. I was on 3 months notice and all of that, and the ups and downs of that decision. But I just had to stick with it. And even HR was saying, yeah, but he's left now. You sure you don't want to stay? And I was like, no, I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to do it. That just, again, it was a life-changing thing to do, life-changing decision. And the law of attraction kept me afloat in all of that, because I think the minute you go into the narrative of, oh my God, how long is this money going to last? What's going to happen? When am I going to get my next client? And you just keep sinking and sinking and sinking. So I had to really catch myself every time I went into that downward spiral, before I downward spiraled, and just kind of get myself up and write my goals and do my vision board and put everything into the law of attraction to ensure that this was a success. That was a real pivotal moment, I think, for me, sitting on that veranda and just knowing that we only have this lifetime. We have other lives. People talk about that, but we don't remember that. We don't know about that. This lifetime is what counts.
It's the now. Now is all we have. No matter how much you plan for the future, you don't know what the future holds. No. You have to just almost hope for the best and know that whatever's coming is what is meant to be, and I guess put your best intentions towards it.
Yeah, I think if something like that is calling you that strongly, you have to go.
Yeah.
And try it out, and otherwise you just regret it. You just be like, oh, what if I wish I'd done this, and I don't want to live that kind of life. When it's calling you that strongly, you have to give it some air. You have to listen to it. You have to follow it and trust it, because it's calling you for a reason. Your higher self, I think, has that bigger bird's eye view and can see everything. And so, yeah, there is that element of trust. I was never going to die. I wasn't going to become injured. But that fear was like not unjustified. It made me dot the I's and cross the T's and do everything properly. But there was no fear to my life from doing it, if that makes sense. If you were like, oh, Gwen, go bungee jumping tomorrow, then no. Different story, different kettle of fish. I think when we go to the catastrophic moment in our mind and say, well, what would I actually do if this happened? What would I do if this didn't work out? Okay, I'll get another job.
Yeah.
And in the process, I would have learned a lot to be able to kind of do it again and do something differently. But it takes a lot of trust in self and in whatever you believe in, I think. But if something's calling you that strongly, and it isn't just a question of, I need to get out of here, because it wasn't so much I'm running away from something. I really also wanted to go to something. I wanted the freedom. I wanted to be able to create. I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to help people. So it was also something I was going to. It wasn't just about, okay, I'm running away from something.
Yeah, that's a really important point. You're not running away, because it's very easy for us to escape. When I was in the investment management world, there were so many things that I used as an escape. And that should be a clue that that's not the right place for you. If you're living a life that you have to escape from, it's a big indicator that, maybe we need to relook at life. What's life like for you now since the moment?
Just to speak on what you've just said, it is important that if you do find that you don't like where you are, you take yourself with you. This is a big Abraham Hicks phrase. So if you don't clean up that energy a little bit, you're just going to create the same scenario, different job, but same people, same thing kind of happening. Yeah. So it is important to take some time to make a little bit peace of where you are, but then think about where you want to go, how you want to feel. So you're not just running away from something.
And I think that's true for relationships too, because I know for me,
absolutely,
I kept meeting the same person.
Yes, absolutely.
Like different shape, size,
body,
height, weight. Yeah. But same person.
Yeah. So until we do that inner work, that's what happens, because there's a lesson in all of it that we need to understand, whether it's work or relationship. We need to do some work in between before we just jump, because we're just going to jump straight back into the same scenario.
I think it also goes back to what we were saying earlier about the control, in that we find ourselves in the relationships we find ourselves in because of us. We have control over that. And sometimes if you're in a bad relationship or you have a bad breakup, you instantly say, oh, poor me, why me, why me, why me? And until you actually realize that it's why you is because of you, your beliefs, your thoughts, the way you feel about yourself. That is why you're having these experiences.
Absolutely. That self-work is important. And yeah, we can blame everybody else. There's no good men out there. All men cheat. Or even, as you said, it might be blaming self. I always attract I never attract the right guy. These become commands that, as you said, they become beliefs, and your reality has no choice but to create that for you. When we start having a different sort of creating new beliefs around these things, even if we initially don't believe them, but even just saying things differently, watching what we say, how we speak, but then doing the inner work, but also knowing that the inner work continues in the new relationship. I spent many years single on my own, doing this work in bliss, didn't want anyone to kind of spoil it all. I'm in a great space now. Okay, I'm ready now, and all of that. And then straight away you find, there's still more work to do. And you're not going to know that until you get in the relationship. It has to continue in the relationship. So once we see the relationship as a bit more of a growth arena, and we look at it differently and how we're being with another person, because that other person will always reflect back to us and us to them as well. It makes the relationship more interesting, because you really can grow and become more authentic within the relationship as well.
I definitely agree with it. And I think also once you have that self-awareness, so you know what your triggers are. It's happened with me as well. Similar to you, I was single for 8 years. I've now been in a relationship for 8 years. Yay. And he's nothing like anyone I've ever been with.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, same with mine.
I've broken that curse.
Yeah.
But he triggers me in different ways. When I first started seeing him, I was like, oh, this is great. worked out of all that stuff, and
Yeah, I am
and then all
healed.
these new things. Yeah, I am healed. No, and then all these new things that, but again, they're all things that I've always had in me. But he's now just, holding a mirror to it
Yeah,
to say, like,
yeah.
hey, you never get to that place of healed. Healed is not a
I
thing.
don't think you do. Yeah, I don't think you do. Yeah, I think we'd be dead when that happens.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I don't think you do. Because it's all a learning. I imagine you're really introspective as well and self-reflective. So it's like, okay, why did that trigger me? Why did that wind
Yeah.
me up? And it's how you deal with it. Are you able to be emotionally vulnerable? Are you able to bring it up with them in a way that you can be heard? And it's practicing all these things and giving yourself that kind of compassion. Relationships are very interesting, very interesting. As I said, that's been the theme for my life. But it's nice to be able to share with my coaching clients as well some of these things that I've learned and am learning now, so they can also go on to have more fulfilling relationships. And yeah, there's so much on relationships I could talk about forever. So much.
I think we have to go through it to learn it. And I've never been in such a healthy relationship, but there are also things that still need work from both our ends. I've come to realize that it's all my inner child that gets triggered.
Absolutely.
And things that I thought were fine now are coming back up, and I'm like, oh, okay, when did I feel like this when I was a child? And reminding myself now that that's not happening right now.
Yeah.
We just peel different layers with every relationship, not just romantic friendships, work relationships. So tell us about life after your moment.
Yes, sorry, let's get back to that. Yeah, so after that moment, I quit my job. I threw myself into the business full time. I had this contingency and I was slowly using up the contingency because initially the business wasn't making a lot. But again, using things like mindset and the law of attraction and the Reiki healing as well. And a lot of surrendering and trusting. The business just got better and better and grew. And so now I teach 2 weekends a month. I teach Reiki 1 and 2. I teach the Reiki Masters Retreat 3 times a year. I also coach my clients. I run group coaching and individual coaching. I run workshops, and I literally wake up every day just feeling blessed. You're blessed that I can do this. It's just wonderful. And sometimes I have to pinch myself. I went away to the coast for 3 days to do some work last week, and I was doing some writing, and I was just like, I can't believe I'm here doing this. I started my business in 2015, so next year will be 10 years. But I left in 2019, and it's just gone from strength to strength, and it's just lovely to meet so many people, to talk hundreds of students now as well. So they're going out and that ripple effect is happening. They're healing their families and their friends and setting up their businesses. And a lot of that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have made that decision to quit and go full time. Yeah, we're talking about relationships. My current partner, it's been 2.5 years now. He's also in business. So it's nice having someone who's also in that to banter with. So it was a decision that, again, just as I said, it changed my life completely, given me the freedom that I want. I'm now looking over the horizon a bit more and wanting a bit more freedom, maybe a bit more flexibility. But I do love teaching, but thinking about teaching in a different way, so I'm not so location dependent. I'm living a fulfilled life and being able to create and play and hear the stories of my clients or my students where their lives have been changed and shifted by Reiki or by coaching. And I'm just in awe of that, as I said, every day, in awe of the things that they come up with. So yeah, life is good.
So
Touch wood.
yes, you were talking about things weren't maybe going as well as you were hoping to begin with. What are some strategies that you did to not give up and go, okay, it's not working, I'm getting a job now?
I think for me, one, it was understanding that just like relationships, your business is also an energy. And so it isn't just, we see all these ads right now. You start your business in 30 days, earn 10K in a month, all of these things. And this kind of get rich quick stuff and Amazon style living and get it tomorrow type thing. And so one, I realized I had to be patient with it. But I enjoyed the process, and I still enjoy the process of business because you're constantly creating molding and remolding and reiterating. Nothing is set in stone. So if you've got one offering, you might have another tomorrow. You might get rid of something that isn't working, bring something in. And so when we kind of chill out a little bit about business and not think that it has to be perfect as soon as we set up, we can play with it a little bit more and it responds to us. So that definitely helped me kind of get through any difficult times. And I remember one year, it was a December, and I was giving a lot as well. I was giving a lot away, free sessions and freebies on my newsletter and stuff like that, just taking December off in a way. But I had my biggest month that year in December. Wow. So it just shows you it isn't about effort sometimes, or just about effort. Yeah. It's also about energy. And if you're in the right headspace, it allows things to come through. Whenever things get a bit, this seems like a low month. You don't know that if you don't track it. So a lot of people, I teach business as well, business coaching, a lot of my students don't track, or clients don't track how much money they brought in. They don't know. They just assume they haven't made a lot. But when they actually look back, actually it was quite a good month. So having that gratitude as well for what's come in. I am a goal person. I like to set my goals and affirm my goals every month. And I still affirm the same goals about the business because I want to keep that energy going. Yeah. Similarly to relationships, you probably had a list of what you wanted or what you wanted to attract in your mind, or you might have written it down. And we need to affirm that still because it keeps the relationship alive. And when we don't continue to affirm what we want in our business or our relationship, it starts to diminish. So having that approach of continually feeling that gratitude for my business, for what was already working as well as new things as well, definitely kept me going. But also remembering where I was and how, I'm not saying I was unhappy in the world of work, but how for so long I wanted something more and was doing this now. So remembering that, where you came from and the successes, and recording the successes so you can look back when you have sort of down days in business, but just never giving up and following your heart and just keep going.
In terms of law of attraction, were there books that you read? Or I know about law of attraction, but I don't think I've ever delved into it quite as deep. I've watched Secret and read books by Dr. Wayne Dwyer. What were some of the things that you looked at for the law of attraction?
So the people who really kind of started this energy of law of attraction are called Abraham Hicks. And basically it's Esther Hicks and Jerry Hicks. Jerry Hicks has passed now. Esther Hicks basically channels an entity called Abraham. And so that's not so unusual. There's a lot of people doing that now, I think. But she's been going since the 80s, and she'll be in front of an audience and someone will ask a question and she'd be able to answer that question and it would just make sense. It would resonate at your heart. So reading their books, The Law of Attraction, Ask and It's Given is another book by Abraham Hicks. Also reading Dr. Joseph Murphy's books, which is The Power of the Subconscious Mind. I think he wrote this book probably in the 30s, 40s, 50s, really early. Even books like Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, which has a really strong spiritual spin to it, which people don't realize. Books like that. Dr. Joe Dispenza as well. Yeah. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Oh, that's a great book to start with. Yes, I've read that one. That is a great book.
So all the things that allow you to understand that your mind creates, and also bringing in things like meditation as well, and having that space to meditate, to visualize, to bring some calm and peace to any stress you might be feeling was important. But those books were very, very important to me, I think, in terms of understanding the law of attraction and how it works. They're the core books, I think, in my journey. I read thousands, but they're the main ones, I think, I recommend.
It's always the ones you remember the names of that were the meaningful ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're the freaky ones.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us? Any messages for someone listening?
I think if they resonated with my journey, as I said, just don't give up. If it's calling you, it's for a reason. I don't think we'd even be able to conceive it in our memory if we weren't already living it in some dimension, if that makes sense. So your future self is calling you, pulling you to it. And we have to trust. We have to deal with those doubts that kind of come up. And it isn't about going from one extreme to the other with our doubts, just soothing it. It is enough to stop it running, the negative version of that doubt running. My message would be, if something's calling you, sit with it, explore it, get some guidance on it, and just maybe take the first step towards it. And then you'll find that things just open up for you. The right people show up, the right courses you might have to do, or money that you can then save as contingency. Things just come up to lead you to that, particularly if you're wanting to go into being of service and helping other people. And you would not be gifted that if that energy wasn't calling you. Those people need you. And you want to show up your best. And particularly if you're doing healing work, if you're working full time in a corporate job that you don't love, you're not going to be able to bring as much energy to that healing session as if that was all you were doing. What you're bringing is going to be so much more powerful. So don't give up. That would be my advice.
You have got some amazing resources on your website, which I'm going to link to in the show notes. You do have some law of attraction information.
Yeah. If they go to myspiritualbutterfly.com, and then there's a free tools area, self-care space it's called, on there. And there's affirmations they can download, as well as book recommendations. There's some freebies they can sign up to, and meditations. There's all sorts in there. And also on my YouTube channel, My Spiritual Butterfly, there's a load on there around some coaching bites, as well as meditations. And there's me talking about Reiki. So there's a lot there if you're wanting to do some more in your self-development, you're more in your healing journey as well. There's a lot that I offer.
And if anyone is feeling called to do Reiki and they are in the UK, I 125% recommend Gwen. Gwen is amazing. I think I was really lucky. I actually redid my Reiki too with you. And I was so fortunate to be in your beautiful home. If Reiki's calling you, definitely recommend checking out Gwen, because she's an incredible teacher. And
thank you.
Beautiful. Just being in your energy is just amazing. So I like to ask all my guests, if you could be remembered by one word, what would that word be?
I think teacher.
Yeah. Nice.
Nice. I was going to say giver. Teacher is given as well, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Maybe giver.
You can have both.
Thank you.
Teacher is a wonderful word for you, because you are a lovely teacher. And it's not just the way you teach Reiki, but it's also passing on the things that you've learnt in your life so far, and in a way that you're not pushing your ideas on someone, but you just say, this was my experience, and you open space for someone to have a realization themselves. I think that's a really important gift, and something that you do amazingly well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I received that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, because you can't just give all the time. You've got to receive too. So
definitely. Yeah, but it's nice to share. If I learn something that helps me, I always want to share it. And it doesn't have to be an official capacity as a course, but even just in conversation. And I think that's why any of us are shown something. And even what you're learning in your relationship, you'll pass that on 100%.
With this podcast, I felt really called to do it, because the kind of messages I got was create something that helps people heal. And I'm a really firm believer in that someone right now is listening to this and has maybe been on the fence about changing their careers, changing their relationships, or has been called to delve into the law of attraction or Reiki, but they have found this episode. And I believe that we all have a moment that changes our lives. And it is my biggest hope that my podcast can be a moment for someone. And listening to my guests share their story will help with that moment. So thank you for sharing your amazing story and your lovely wisdom.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for doing this. It is really impactful, as you say. Even if it helps one person, I know it helps many more, for sure. It's just that ripple effect and that consciousness for you to want to do this. Really blessed that you've chosen this path. Thank you so much.